Hello and welcome to class. This is AutoCAD 2D, a beginner's course in the use and operation of AutoCAD, one of the most popular computer-aided design and drafting platforms, which has been around since 1982. My name is Craig Bailey, and I've been a long-time user of AutoCAD and many of its civil engineering variants. This video has been developed as a supplement to a semester-long course which is delivered to students at New Hampshire's NHTI, Concord's Community College. I've been working in the land development industry my entire career. I hold a PE license and I'm a licensed land surveyor. Let's take a look at the topics to be covered. Okay, welcome back, and today we're going to be taking another spin at the dynamic block using some geometric constraints. The first thing that we're going to do is make sure that we're in using the right template. So I'm going to do File, New. Make sure we're using the NHTI AutoCAD inch, color-based. Okay, there we go. Let's hop back into model space, and now it's going to occupy a layer that we don't often occupy. Layer 0. We're going to use layer 0 because this is going to be embedded inside of a block. And so when you use layer 0 for blocks, it will inherit the occupied layer when we start to place the blocks later on. Okay, so we have a new drawing. I'd like to start a door. Let's do the elevation view of a door. And I'm going to just randomly pick right here, give it some dimensions. Length for this door is going to be in the x-axis, and let's go ahead with 32 inches. And the height, or width in this case, is actually going to be 84, so that's about 7 feet. Click right there. Alright, so that gives us a rough scale of the door, and let's go ahead and occupy the annotate ribbon here, and let's choose the NHTI annotative, and let's choose a annotative scale, say 1.5 inches equal to foot, and label that right there, 2 foot 8 inches, perfect, and 7 feet, just like I predicted. So get rid of those dimensions there, and now that we have the basis for the door, let's go ahead and create the block. So we'll start the block command. The name is going to be very simple, door. The idea here is going to be a single block that can display many different styles, types of doors. So the base point, we're going to go ahead and pick a point. I'd like this to be the midpoint of the bottom horizontal member, so right there. Block units are inches, that's fine. We're going to select the object and we'll go select that perimeter of the door. Give it a name, description, multi-door. Allow to be scaled uniformly, yes, and allow exploding. Okay, convert to block, very good. And make sure you have open and block editor turned on. Okay, so the screen changes just enough to know that we're in somewhere different. We've got this ridiculous grid, so we'll turn that off. And that's off now. And the thing that you'll notice that we're in the block editor. Normally out of the box, AutoCAD will have a gray background. I've changed my background to black. But when you see the block authoring palettes come in over here to the left, that means you're definitely in the block editor. I like to keep those locked over to the right. And also, I like to also bring up the AutoCAD properties. So I'll just write that on the command line and pull that properties over to the right side of the screen. Alright, so now I have this block editor. I've got my properties palette. I've got the block authoring palette. Notice the ribbon has changed to all block tools. And if you were around for class number 7 for parametric design, you'll recognize many of these tools here under the geometric parametric constraints. Okay, we also have the parametric dimensional parametric constraints here as well. The way to get out of the block editor is to click the green check, close block editor. It'll often not ask you to save it. Yes, I do. Okay, so now if I pick that door, I'm back out. Notice that the ribbon is back to normal, and I'm going back to home. Notice that the block, if I select that object from the window, the property says that it's a block reference. It's no longer a polyline, it's a block. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and pick that again. Left click, right click while it's selected, and I'm going to choose Edit through the block editor. So I'm going to just click the block editor. Back in block editor. Okay. The next thing that we want to do is give this door some width. But before we even do that, I'd like to add a base point. And so over here in the block authoring palette, if you open that up a little bit, you can see everything. We have 4 tabs. We have a parameters tab, we have the actions tab, and now we have a third one is the parameter sets. That's kind of cool. And lastly is some constraints. These constraints are also duplicated up here in the palette. We have both the parameters down here and the geometric. Okay. I'd like you to start with parameters. So occupy the parameters tab, please, and then bring back the base point. So click the base point once. And it's very important that you keep your command line so that you can read it. I like to have at least 3 lines that I can read, and I like to have the command line kind of stretched out to there. Alright, so the command line is telling me to specify the parameter location. I'll go ahead and pick the midpoint of that lower line. So notice if I selected that polyline, it is a polyline inside of this block editor. And I snap to that magnetical location there on that lower horizontal member. Notice my cursor is at 0, 0. So, and also notice that the user icon has jumped up. The little X and the Y has jumped up to the location of 0, 0. When we have the base point parameter brought in, you can actually move the polyline and the base point over to here. And so if you do a zoom extents, we have the icon down in the lower left, but the little base point is going to become the insertion point of the block, even though it's at coordinates 2, 2, something or other. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and add a linear parameter. So I'm going to click the linear parameter, and I'd like to make this parameter a width. I'm going to make this the width parameter. So I'm going to, command line says specify the start point, or I have options here. I'm going to go ahead and click left on the upper left hand corner, and then that right hand corner of the polyline. And now I'm going to place that dimension right there. So you can see that it's kind of blue, and if I were to change my color scheme here a little bit, you may be able to see those better. Let's see here. I think there's a way to do that. From within here, parameter color. I'm going to change my parameter colors to cyan. That'll help a little bit. Okay, so there's your distance parameter. All right. I don't want the name distance 1. So if I select that parameter, the properties palette over here says it is a linear parameter. It has a property label of distance name distance 1. I'm going to change that by selecting that cell and typing width. And if I keep scrolling down on that properties palette, you can see that we have some value sets available here. Distance type is none, or incremental, or list. None, let's start with none, and we're going to change to list later on, but I just want to start with none. The distance minimum, I think we're going to set that as 24 inches, and the distance maximum, let's go with 60 inches. Okay. So notice I have this little gray bar, and that indicates the value, the range rather, that this width parameter will be able to give us, all the way down to 24 inches, all the way up to 60 inches. And finally, so select that parameter again. And finally, I'd like to have the number of grips shown as just 1, not 2, and not 0. Okay. I'm going to hit close the block editor. I want to show you what happens. Save it. If I select the block, nothing happens except for I have that little grip at the base point. That's all we have for grips right now. Okay. Go back into the block editor. Notice my width parameter has this yellow action error. And if I hover over that, it says there are no actions associated with the parameter. Okay. Let's go ahead and select the actions palette panel from the palette. And let's use stretch. So fire up the stretch action. And select a parameter. We're going to attach this to the width parameter. Next, the command line asks me to specify the parameter point to associate with the action. Notice how if I hover the mouse either left, there's a little red line, little red X. Little red X is now following me, and if I go back to the first, the little X follows me. I'm actually going to click right here. I've associated the action with that second grip, the one that is available. Okay. Now it asks me to specify the first corner of a stretch frame. A stretch frame is very similar to a crossing selection in AutoCAD. And I'm going to do that. Well far to the upper right, and then through the bottom. Notice how I have crossed the horizontal top member and the horizontal bottom member, but this vertical member over here is wholly contained within that frame, and this vertical member over here is not in the frame at all. What that means is we're going to be able to stretch by kind of elastic banding the top and the bottom, and that vertical member stays perfect. So now it says select the object. In order to select the door itself and the parameter, and hit enter. And now you can see this little floating icon, and if I select it, you can see the ghosted where I selected my frame. And I can move that around and kind of get it out of the way. Now let's green check and close the block editor, save the changes. Now let's pick the block. Ooh, now we now have another grip. And I can pull this way all the way out to 60 inches and all the way back to 2 feet, 24 inches. Okay. So now I have a 60-inch door. Don't believe me? Let's go ahead and dimension that. 5 feet or 60 inches. Very good. Okay. But wouldn't it be nice if that base point moved with us? Okay. Kind of the idea is to keep the base point at the center of the door. And so we can do that. Go ahead and go back into the block editor. And if you take a look at the Actions tab, we have the Move action. Okay, let's left-click the Move, and that fires up the Move action. And now the command line says select a parameter. I'm going to select my width parameter. Specify the point to associate. Again, the same point. Okay, the right-hand side. Finally, the command line says, all right, now select the objects that you want to be moved as you tug towards the right. And I'm just going to move the base point and hit enter. I'm not done yet. So now I have the first action, which is called stretch, and the second action is called move. I'm going to select the action, and my properties palette comes up with the move actions. I'd like to change the distance multiplier from 1 to 0.5. By setting 0.5, what that means is every inch I pull to the right will only move the item a half of an inch. Basically slows it down. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and green check. Save the changes. And if I move it, see that? The base point moves with me. Just the way we like it. Okay, and let's go ahead and get back into that block editor. Now let's say that we have only 3 different types of doors. We have a 30-inch door, a 32-inch door, and a 36-inch door. We don't want any other abilities. Okay, so I'm going to pick that width parameter. I'm going to go down to distance type. I'm going to choose list. Well, before I do, I'm going to actually set the door to 30 inches for now. I can do it with this. So that's a 30-inch circle, of course, and we can move that side of the door, and I can kind of get it close to 32 inches, right? I could get it better if I were to go to ortho, and now I can only move it up or down or left and right. But I'm having a hard time getting it exactly 32 inches, or what is that? The circle is, yeah, the radius is actually 30 inches. What other tools do we have at our disposal? Well, remember, we have the linear constraint. And so if we hit the linear constraint and we selected that same top bar, do it again. From that side to that side, put it in here, and set the distance to 30 inches. Type 30. That tugged it in, but notice it didn't hold perpendicular. We can fix that too. Let's go ahead and bring in the perpendicular. I'm sorry, that's the coincident. And there's your perpendicular. This is the controlling line segment for the part that we want to control. Alright, so that is now perpendicular. That is now still 30 inches. But we should also perpendicularize the door as well. And so let's go ahead and do that. Let's say the top of the door controls the perpendicularity of that side of the door. There we go. We're back to a perfect door. And let's go ahead and delete that. And what has happened is we have changed the dimension of the door. Don't believe me? Let's go ahead and dimension it. 30 inches. And of course, these perpendicularity geometric constraints have made sure that these angles are perfectly 90. Alright, cool. So, minimally constrained, the width is now 30 inches. Let's go back to that slider here, that width parameter. Change it from a none to a list. And if I selected that cell, there's a little gray button that comes up. There's my 2 foot 6 inches, that's 30 inches. Let's do 32 inches. We'll add that. And we're going to add 36 inches. Add that. And so hit OK. Notice we now have, instead of a little range bar, we have a tick there, a tick here, and a tick here. And so I can pull this out only to those options. Let's go ahead and try it. Close the block editor. There's 36 inches, there's 32 inches, and there's 30 inches. Okay, we only have 3 options. 36-inch door, 32-inch door, or a 30-inch door. And because we're holding those geometric constraints, everything is nice and constrained perpendicular. And you'll also notice the base point is still moving as well. So if I go all the way to the end, 36, half of that is 18. Okay, so if I were to do a circle at 18 inches, and I selected it, looks like we've got a problem. It's always good to check. Right? So let's go back in there. 36. Let's go back to the block editor. And we're at 30, so let's move that item here to the midpoint as it sits today. Check the move. I think it'll work now. So we had to just adjust it a little bit. Green check. And we'll go all the way to the 36. That looks much better. Just do a check. 18 inches for sure. Okay. And if we go back down to 30 inches, then we do a 15-inch circle for sure. Okay, that was it. We just got moved a little bit. Okay, so let's go ahead and save this drawing. This is going to be class number 8. Go ahead and put it in Dropbox. HTI AutoCAD 2D classes, class 8 dynamic blocks, and this is door. Okay. So now we're left with how tall can this thing be? So let's go back to the block editor. Let's bring in another parameter, but this time instead of doing a parameter first and then an action, let's use this one, the fancy setup, the parameter set. The parameter set is both kind of combined, the parameters and the actions. So let's go ahead and do a linear stretch parameter set. And I'm going to click, the first point is down here on the lower left, and the second click is going to be on the upper left. Pull that out. Rename that height. The distance type is going to be incremental. No, increment. Let's do a list. Let's do 7 feet, 7 feet 2 inches, and let's do 7 feet 6 inches, and finally let's do 96 inches 8 feet. Looks like I have an extra 1/16 of an inch here happening right now, so we'll have to clean this up a little bit. Hitting OK. So if I were to dimension this thing here, for sure 7 foot 16 inches. Okay. So what do we want to do? We want to kind of scrunch this whole thing down. Let's try the linear constraint again. Let's do vertical this time. Oop. Just set that to 7 feet. Okay. And let's do an annotation. Now it's 7 feet. Let's check the side. Should also be 7 feet because we have everything perpendicular. It is. So where did that 1/16 of an inch come from? You gotta wonder. Well, let's check down here. We're going to grab that vertical height parameter and snap it to, and over here we're going to grab that, there it is, that's where it was. So the door got shortened, which is okay, which is perfect. Pull it right down to there. Alright, let's go ahead and deal with that parameter again. Let's look at the list. Let's get rid of that 16th. Let's get rid of that 7. So now we have 7, 7 foot 2, 7 foot 6, and then 8 feet. Perfect. Okay. Now we have to deal with that stretch. Notice how the stretch here has a little yellow icon on there. It means nothing's been selected yet. So let's go ahead and select that stretch action, right click, action selection set, new selection set, and now it tells me the first corner of the stretch frame. Let's hold the bottom as fixed, and we're just going to move from the top. Okay. Now it says select the object. I'm going to select the door itself. I'm going to select that width parameter, and we're going to select the height parameter. Not the base point, because that's going to stay alone. Hit return. Let's get rid of that constraint there, because that'll over constrain things. Let's do a green check and close. Let's try it. So we can still go to 36 inches. We should go to 34, and let's go up. Nice. So now we have the ability to change the door to 36 or 32 or 30 width, and we can put it all the way down to 7 feet tall. This is getting kind of cool. So let's go back to the block editor and let's see here. Okay, let's try this. Let's go back into the block editor and let's go ahead and put in some annotations. All right, and let's set that to 1 inch equals a foot. I'm going to close the block editor. Do the same, 1 inch equals a foot. So now you can see the dimensions are going to change as we tug it. Alright? It really is a really fun system once you get it to work. Okay? There's your 7'6", and there's your 3 feet wide. What else can we do? Well, we can start to take a look at a window inside of this thing. So let's go ahead back in there. Block editor. For now, let's get rid of these annotations here. We don't really need them right now. And let's just focus on the top of the door. Let's draw a window. And I'm going to use a polyline, still in layer 0. I'm going to roughly kind of rough it in. I don't know, there's 1 foot 10 inches. There's 2 feet. There's roughly 1 foot 10 inches. And let's close it. Okay. So it's not exactly perfect, right? But we're gonna override those eyeballings through constraints. First off, I'd like to set the side dimensions. So let's go slow. Actually, before we set the side dimensions, let's control what's horizontal. So let's do a parallel. The top of the door is going to control the top of the window. And the side of the door is going to control the side of the window. And the side of the window is going to be perpendicular to the bottom of the window. And the side of the window is going to be perpendicular to the top of the window. Okay, roughly constrained. We may need to add some more constraints, but that should work for the most part. And if I don't, so right now the window isn't really talking to the sides of the doors other than for geometric control. Now let's have it talk to the side of the door for dimensions. So let's go to use horizontal distance. First constraint point, we're going to use that lower left hand corner. The second point is going to be that side of the door. I'm going to set D1 is equal to 2 inches. Ooh, undo. See what that did there? It pulled the side of the door in. Try that again. Try that again. This time we're going to use the horizontal distance. We're going to use the side of the door. The side of the door is going to control the location of the window. Man, it's giving me trouble here. Side of the door is going to control the location of that window. I'm going to set that distance to 2 inches. Okay? So the control is always picked first. Same thing. The side of the door is going to control the window. And the distance D2 is going to say D2 equals D1. So instead of typing a number, I just referred that distance to this first distance. Alright, one more. Let's do a vertical. The top of the door is going to vertically control distance-wise the top of the window. We'll put that right there. And we're going to say D3 is equal to D1. Same, 2 inches, and pulled the whole door right up, the window. Now, finally, we're going to do another distance. We're going to say the top of the window controls the bottom of the window of a distance of D4 is equal to 6 times D1. 6 times is not enough. Let's go ahead and let's make that 12 times. D4 is equal to 12 times D1, so that's going to be a 24-inch tall window. There we go. Okay, so now I believe for the most part this is a good constraint, and I can clean this up here a little bit by knocking these dimensions. Let's see down here. Trying to get these to shut off here. No. Here they are, right here. I'm going to hide all. And I guess I can't control the dimensions. So let's go ahead and turn those back on. And let's close the block editor. We'll reset the block. And let's try the stretch. So the stretch works for the door still. It doesn't move it's not moving the window for some reason yet. I think I know why. Let's try the height, and the window is moving with that, so that's good. And now we have one more grip that has no function yet. So let's reset that block. Right click and choose reset. Let's take a look real quick. It looks like the base point may have got pulled a little bit here, so let's go back into the block editor. And we have this all of these should have 0 grips to them. So let's set D1 is equal to, with a number of grips of 0. D4 should have a number of grips of 0. D2 should have a number of grips 0. And D3 should have a number of grips 0. So the only question here is why isn't the right-hand side of that window getting pulled? Let's also put this back to the midpoint of the lower member there. Set the height back to I don't know why that isn't being connected here. Not very sure. So let's just take a look at the stretch here. We're going to action selection set. We're going to modify the selection set for the stretch. Specify this first corner of the frame. It's still the same frame. And we're going to simply add. Oh, try again. Modify the selection set. I want to add that right-hand side of the window. The frame doesn't change. And I'm going to simply add that to the set. Hit return. So close the set, save the changes. Let's try it now. That worked much better. There you go. The constraint, the vertical constraint is certainly working. The horizontal constraint is certainly not working. So we had to control it with the stretch action. So that's how you can see how a dynamic block can be very dynamic. Last thing we can probably do is a doorknob. Block editor. Let's go ahead and put a little tiny circle here, right about there. And let's have this thing flip from left to right. We're going to go to the parameter sets, and we're going to use a flip set. Base point is going to be the midpoint of the door, all the way through. Put the flip set right here. Oh, there it is right there. See that little grip edit? I want to pull that flip icon right there. Okay. And now, where is the flip action? Here it is right here. Right click, action set, new action set. Select the objects, just the doorknob. Close the block editor. Reset the block. And let's try that flip. There we go. Now, it's probably true that if I were to pull that, the doorknob will not move, okay? Because the doorknob didn't exist when we started that stretch. And it sure as heck isn't going to move with respect to that because it didn't exist either. So let's go ahead and reset that block. Go back into the block editor. And we can add to the move. That's what we should do. We'll add the move. Where's our move? There it is up here. Action set to the move action. I'm going to modify it. Select the object to add. I'm going to add the doorknob to it. This will be interesting. It's not going to exactly be right. We'll have to think about it a little bit more, but you'll see what I mean here. I'm going to pull that over, and the doorknob will certainly move, and then it'll flip over. So I guess I have a little more work to do on that one there, but you get the idea that now we have a door that kind of pulls to 3 different sizes and 3 different heights, and the window goes with it. Okay. So using a good combination of dynamic blocks, actions, and also geometric constraints and some dimensional constraints, we can get some very, very cool solutions for some dynamic blocks. Alright, so we'll go ahead and hit save on that, and that will be the assignment for part of the assignment for lab number 8. So what are we learning today? I'm going to the class, on the lesson plans. And today is lesson 8, midterm. Woohoo! Dynamic block. It's a good thing that you guys are so good at parametric drafting now, because this should be a cakewalk compared to parametric drafting. I was talking to a student earlier today before class started, and they were boo-hooing about how hard this class is. I,
I think, well, no, I'll say it. I'll say it straight up front. This is not a civil engineering or architectural focused class. This is a generalist class. I am of the mind, walk before you run. And I'm also of the mind that these fundamental tools with drawing things like lines, polylines, circles, perpendicularity, parallelism, plotting, all this carries through no matter what discipline you're working in. And make no mistake, this is for work. This is not for fun. No one would run AutoCAD for fun. This is a very difficult piece of software. And it's very expensive too. So it is a professional piece of software. And I know that you guys are not able to do industrial work right now at week 8. I get that. I would, by the week 16 though, you'd be able to jump into any industry and become a junior drafting person. Again, it's not a major specific course, so it's not really geared toward the architecturals, the mechanicals. The civil engineering students have a civil CAD class here on campus on Thursdays. And that is an industrial course. And the problem is most of those civil students did not take this particular AutoCAD class. They took the other one from the architectural group. So they have a marked reduction in abilities. Okay, so I have to teach the civil engineering students fundamental AutoCAD at the same time as rocket science level civil 3D. They don't get as much out of that class because they come into this thing basically like space cadets not knowing how to run AutoCAD. So by taking a grueling fundamental class like this, I realize that you're not going to be able to memorize this, and I don't want you to memorize it, but I want you to know that the thing can do it. And once you have 16 weeks of work on this thing, you could then pick it up 6 months from now and say, I know it can do this. How do we do this? And it's like riding a bike. So I don't mind that we're taking it slow. And I also don't mind that we're taking the ribbon one phase at a time. I've always thought that industrial folks use maybe 40% of the software. And I hate that. Because you have to pay for 100% of it. And so I think this is, it appears to be a slow going slog, but it'll work. It'll pay for itself in the end, I'm sure. So tonight we're talking dynamic blocks. And I'm on the screen. Okay. A dynamic block takes and it melds parametric drafting with some dynamic adjusting with a block. It's the best of 3 worlds, really. And the best example that I can come up with for dynamic blocks, and you guys started this on your homework last week, is a window. All right. Let's say for a second here that we are a millworks company and we have 4 different window styles that we'd like to sell to the customer. Here's my proposal to you is we can do this in 1 block. And once you have that block properly developed, you can just drag it off a tool palette, drop it into your design, and change a couple little parameters and keep moving. And then you can have double hung on the side. You can have a picture window in the middle. You can change the dimensional sizes. You can change the light styles. You can change everything through the dynamic block system. So that's where I'm going to start my lesson today. And I'd like you to just watch a little bit, and then we'll let you guys in on the fun. Okay. And so I'm going to go ahead and get on to layer materials 1. which is green. No, I'm going to go to materials 5. Yeah, what the heck. And I'm going to start with a rectangle. And I'm going to start right about there, i.e. I don't care where, right? Hyperspace is fine. I'm going to give it a dimension of a width dimension of, say, 24. I'm going to hit the tab key. I'm going to give it a height dimension of, say, 36 and click up. So now I have this box. I'm going to get this out of my way so I can see better. And the first thing I'm going to do is start the block command. So block, I'm going to give it a name. Every block has to be named. And even though you can have multiple blocks in the drawing space, it's only defined once, right? So I'm going to define this as window. And the base point, I'm going to pick a point. And in this case, I'm actually going to pick the midpoint of the bottom pane. And so I'll click the midpoint of this bottom one here. Remember that location. Right now it's at 1 foot 9 and 7/32, and with a northing of 9 inches 43 and 64 seconds. Okay, ridiculous. That is the absolute location right now. That point that I just picked becomes the location of 0,0 for the block. All right, the block units is inches. That's fine. I'm going to give it first I'm going to select some objects. So I'm going to go ahead and select the object, and that is that one polyline. Hit enter. I'm going to give it a description called this multiple windows. All right, and I'm going to click OK. And so there I have it. I picked that item. It now is listed as a block. How do I know? I'm going to right click. I'm going to go to AutoCAD properties, right there at the bottom. And if I have it selected on my properties palette, it's listed as a block. Okay, the cursor is over here. It shows that it's block, not a polyline. And I'm on layer. Currently, I'm still on layer by layer. On layer material 5, the color is by layer. All right, so we have a name for the block. So I have the properties panel down, and I scrolled with my mouse wheel, and I can scroll up and down. It's not annotative, the block unit are inches. Okay, I'm gonna hit escape, let go of the block. And now I'm gonna right click, I'm gonna select the block, right click while selected, and choose the block editor. Out of the box, you guys probably have a gray block editor window. Okay. And if you wanted to change it to be black like mine, you just simply go to the colors and notice how it's in the block editor. And again, out of the box, it probably comes in like a gray. All right. Sort of like that. That doesn't work that great here in the classroom or on Zoom. So that's why I always hop into black. But you can certainly do whatever floats your boat. I'm going to go back to black here. And I'm going to hit OK. So notice as I move around the block editor area, what is the block editor? The block editor is like a mini AutoCAD drawing window. It's a mini drawing area. Notice how the X and Y, the user icon, is set up right at the midpoint of that polyline. That's at 0,0 local to that rectangle. And if I hit escape and I select that thing and I snap to the midpoint, you can see if I had my coordinates running, which I might. If I had my coordinates running, I got to turn those on. There it is. The coordinates are listed here on the bottom of the system tray, 0,0,0. Okay. So it's like a subset of the world. We've got a small little subset. All right, not enough of that. Just know that the base point for your block is your insertion point until it's not. Now what do we do with this thing? Well, right now it's a polyline, okay? And what layer should it be on? Does anybody have an idea what it should be on? Typically, the layer of the item inside the block is actually layer 0. I'm going to hit save. I'm going to close the block editor. Little green check up in the upper right. So the ribbon has changed to all these block tools. So hit the save, yeah. And now I'm gonna, it's still the purple, the pink, right? And it's still, if I selected it, it's still on layer material 5. I'm gonna get on a different layer. I'm gonna go to material 2. And I'm gonna insert using the insert command, or I can use the insert up here, the insert ribbon. And if I click the top half of that insert button, you'll notice it hoovers and it goes to insert block. So I'm pick that. And I have a little palette that pops out that shows me all of the blocks in the drawing. Our logo and the window. So there's window, I picked it, and I'm gonna just plop it in right there. What's the difference? Color, why? What color did I draw? Close. Into the block, I pick the block, I right click on it and go to block editor. Now what color is it? White, yeah. And what layer is that rectangle on? Layer 0. This is the magic of layer 0. The magic of layer 0 is primarily for blocks. And so let me change my layer. I'm going to occupy a different layer. I'm going to go to material 5. I'm going to insert the same block again. A different layer. How about material 4? How about that? And now I'll insert the same block again. Okay. In other words, when you use layer 0, when you're defining your block, the stuff in your block, i.e. line segments, pieces of text, arcs, circles, anything, if they're selected as layer 0 inside the block, they're going to appear as your current layer when you insert it. Okay. Now I'll only change my layer. I'll go to a different layer. I'll go to border text. And I'll insert it again. So now that layer is on layer border text. That block is on border text. You can see the layer there. This guy over here is on material 2. This one here is on material 4. In other words, the layer of your block is going to be set based on the layer that you're occupied on at that moment. And more importantly, its plotting properties can bring in, its plotting properties are also a function of that current layer. So if you're on something that's color 1, using our plot style, it's going to plot out wicked heavy. If you're on something color 7, 1 is red, 7 is white, it's going to come out very narrow. Okay, so there we go. All right, so pick it, go back into the block editor, and I'm going to do a parameter. So the first thing that you notice when you're in the block editor, again, the ribbon has changed, but notice it's got a bunch of those parametric things that we're used to at this point. And it's true, these are the same exact parameters, constraints for parameters that we have available in the regular drawing window. They also have dimensionals. Okay, so we're same idea. And I think a couple of you guys submitted some homeworks that you couldn't change the dimension of the window. So I dinged you on that because you didn't use one of these linear parameters. Most importantly in the blocks, so I want to go ahead and pick this linear parameter under the block authoring palette. Yeah. One of the assignments was to that long bracket with the arcs on each end. and you can set it like 96 inches wide using one of these linear dimensional parameters.
Something that already exists that you apply that to, is that what that is?
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that it's not exactly dynamic yet. So that's why the dynamic block is just one step above parametric drafting. And so I'm going to use the first parameter over here. I'm going to click the linear. Go ahead and click that once. Specify the start point. This is another time here that you really need to have your command line in your face. All right. You need the command line to be available. The command line is telling me to specify a start point. So I'm going to pick the end point of that line. Now the command line says specify the end point. I'm going to pick the end point there. Now it says specify the label location, and I'll click right there. You are going to have a hard time seeing that. Let me see if I can fix those colors really super quick here. All right. So that blue linear parameter is a linear parameter, okay? And notice how it has a bunch of new shaped grips, okay? We have the first grip on there, which is the yellow pointing to the left, yellow pointing to the right. And of course, we have this thing that looks like a dimension, and it has the word distance 1 on there. It's not a plotting dimension, it's a linear parameter. And so I'm going to select that linear parameter, and my properties palette, I'm going to scroll down on that. And where is right here? Under the property labels, I'm going to name this width. Okay, the word width. And the distance type, I'm going to change that as a none for now. We'll get to the different fancy ones next. Distance minimum, I'd like the minimum width of this window to be 14 inches. And the maximum window width is going to be 96 inches. Notice how it changes it to 1 foot, 2 inches, and 8 foot for me. Nextly, I'm going to get down into the MISC area. The base location, I can change either the start point or the midpoint. Leave it on start. And I'm going to do number of grips. I'm going to just change this to just 1 grip. And click right there. I'm not going to chain actions. And I'm going to stuff that parameters box over to the right. And I'm going to green check block editor, make the saves to the window. So grip edits, pick the block. I only have 1 grip, the grip at its insertion point. Why don't I have anything up top here? No, it's still there. Parameters need actions, right? So if I go back into the block editor, my parameter thing is still there. It's just, notice how it's got a exclamation point. It says, what? That means it doesn't have an action associated with it. So over here on this block authoring palette, I'm going to go to the next one, which is actions. And I'm going to choose stretch. Okay, let's use stretch. Watch the command line. 8 weeks in. It should be in your brains by now. Good. I'm going to select the parameter. I'm going to select my width parameter. And then it tells me to specify the parameter point to associate with the action, or I can make some adjustments. Start point, second point, whatever. Specify the parameter point to associate with the action. And I'm going to hover my mouse over the right-hand arrow end. I'm just going to click. All right, next. So what I've left with now is I have a small red X marks the spot. I'm applying the action here. Lastly, it says to specify the first corner of your stretch frame. This is new. We know how to do selections by a crossing, right? Or we know how to do selections by a window. Brian, window gets me what? When I select something with a window, what do I get when I use the window?
Thinking the window we just made.
No.
What window are we talking?
Your selection window,
Depending on which corner you put.
right? Is it blue or gray? Okay,
What window?
all right, we'll let you think
Blue
of that.
gets you everything.
Right,
Green gets you everything it touches.
crosses, right? So it's the same idea.
That's
It's
a
a-
weird question. What window are we looking at? I know what he means now, but that was a weird question. He
It's-
means, like,
it's-
this one is blue and this is green.
Oh, I don't understand what that.
That's literally called a window selection or literally called a crossing selection.
That's really why. I don't
Right.
know what
I fear you are using the lasso method, right? A lot of the time.
I just click things and delete them.
So like I was, along with this idea of a crossing selection, I'm going to click right here. I'm going to make this little box. And I'm crossing the horizontal members and I'm entirely encasing the vertical member.
Does it matter from which side you come at to do it?
No. Wow.
I mean, you
Wait, hold the question. Yeah. Yeah.
You never come from
You will
the
see.
other, right?
You will see the answer to the question. And fine, so now I've made this little crossing selection and I did specify, and I wanted to hold this line here. So I went over it and I cut through this line and that line. Last step, select the objects. I'm gonna go ahead and pick Mr. Polyline. And I select the whole thing lights up, cool, and hit enter.
So what did you select for the dotted line? I mean, what is that? difference?
Mhm.
Gonna make it stretch. Oh, you're stretching, that's right, I forgot yours.
The dotted line is important on the stretch action because it slices through that horizontal member. It slices through this horizontal member. And this segment here is wholly contained within. Right? Anything that's wholly contained within that box is going to be moved. Anything that's sliced by that box is going to be elastically stretched, like my gut. All right, I'm going to hit, and I'm done. I'm going to close the block editor, save the changes. This time, when I pick the block, I have a new grip. I have the blue version of that yellow grip. I'm going to snag it. I'm going to pull it this way.
And then you can specify it
Yeah,
just by looking.
I'm going to go ahead and specify 48 inches. Okay, so there's a 4-foot window. Let's go down to 10 inches. Fail. It's a
Oh,
fail.
right, you gotta-
Right. So if I were to go ahead and annotate that bad boy, it minimums out at 1 foot 2 inches or 14 inches. All right, so these dynamic blocks are a lot of fun. And that's the most basic dynamic block we can do. It's a stretchy block. So why don't you guys take the time, take a couple minutes, bang out a window, build a block out of it, and make it stretchy. What?
Yeah, you gotta start over. How do we start
Oh, boy. It's not even-
No book. Create a block that you can stretch from 14 inches to 96 inches wide. Joe, you're gonna have to scream to yell at me a little bit to get my attention if you need any help. Gradually.
So I go to blocks, I have recent blocks, favorite blocks, blocks.
You have to make your block.
Just happened 5 minutes ago.
Draw something and then convert it to a block.
Draw it before you get into the block, yeah, that's what I was just.
Yeah, that is the best way to do it. There may be, you may be able to start a block empty, but I don't know how to do that. It's best to start with something, build into a block, and then edit it from there. Mhm. Where you at? Where you stuck at?
Group rectangle, and then I'm now in the block.
Okay. So the first thing is to drag into the rectangle, into the block, your linear parameter from the block authoring tool palette. You see that? He's still in the block editor.
I typed block in the- Oh. I have this. and then
No, you're not in the block editor.
there's just right click.
So go ahead, pick your block. No, the block. Okay.
Huh?
Right click while you selected it. Block it and choose
Oh,
block it. There, now you're in the block.
Oh. And then you. Is it?
One click to activate the tool.
Click on it? And then
Start,
click on-
stop. Just keep. That's the tool, that's the object. Single click. And then follow directions on the command line.
Done. You just want to go back. Go back to what?
Yep, green check to go back to model space.
I'm stuck in it. I'm still walking.
Green check on the top right of the,
Reach. Yeah. Alright, so then. So if I have a thing and I grab it and I slide it. Is that good?
let's see,
Slide it?
there you go.
Is it?
Make sure it can go no smaller than 14 inches.
Okay, so you want me to set them. And that was just in properties?
That's right. So now you are looking at, while you're selecting your parameter, you have to set some parameters for the parameter.
So, all right, so. Do you do it here, or do you have to go back into the?
Like back in the block editor. That's a good question. Yeah, and by the way, you guys are gonna be in and out of the block editor about 1,000,000 times tonight. So you need to go in, go out, to check it, to test it, go back in, to fix it, go back out, to test it, go back in. There is a test block tool in there, but it's kind of slow. It slows things down, so. Yeah, you're good at that.
That other parameter sets. or is it-
So first off, select your parameter.
Select mine. So the distance thing?
Mhm.
And then right click,
Yeah.
and then properties for that.
Right.
Okay. And then I can rename it like width. instead of distance.
You do not need to.
And then,
One grip only.
so the other one stays with that little exclamation point.
The exclamation point will go away as soon as you associate, oh, you
It's
have
on that
two,
side.
you have two. You need to set it up so there's only one, it's below, it's on
Below
the
that.
bottom of the plate.
Oh, right, number of grips. Okay, I remember that now. Okay, did it. So am I done?
Thank you. So you have done. You brought in a parameter, distance parameter.
Yeah,
It's kind of like a double constraint.
yeah, so I thought you could,
No,
you have two things.
no, there's one.
Oh,
You can erase the constraint for now.
this one?
Yeah, erase that linear constraint. And you want a linear parameter. instead of that. It's linear.
Oh, wait, wait, I did this thing. That one, no, we did. What is both?
That we did both, right? Work that.
Is there a way to make your midpoint at the bottom move with your thing? 'Cause right now it's staying in the same old midpoint spot. Oh, how did you do? Or it was called it was set at the midpoint, but it was the one spot that you grabbed it, at the bottom.
There is a way to do that.
Make that, so, because I'm assuming that you would take that and put that in a plan,
Yeah.
and you always set it for the midpoint of a window.
I will show you in a minute, but the way to do it is to bring in the insertion base point parameter and select the base point parameter inside of your crossing selection. And then you have to change its distance to half of your pole. Okay,
Oh, I see what you're saying, it's down.
okay.
I was watching, but I don't remember,
We'll talk it out. Let me see how you go.
that's all I did. And so I
Alright.
clicked.
Now go to the action. So every perimeter needs an action.
First.
No.
No.
Stretch. Watch your grand line.
I don't know midpoint either, how do you do the midpoint? Isn't that first? So.
All right, all right. You guys are confused. Okay, you guys are confused. I get it. Let me show one more. I'll add a second parameter, okay? And so,
We were just watching.
no, I get it. You guys I get it. All right. So I'm going to do a second linear parameter, all right? And it's the same thing as the first. So I'm going to go to the parameters, fire up linear, and I'm going to click the first corner that I'm going to mess with. I'm going to click the second corner that I'm going to attach that to and click out. Next, I want to name this something useful instead of distance 1. So I'm going to name this height. Named it height. While I'm here and I've got the parameter selected, I only want to have one grip showing. And I want the base location of the start point. Notice how I picked from hither to thither, okay? You need to have your properties panel up as well, okay? Scroll down. And you'll see name, distance name under the property labels. That's where you rename it. Now that I'm pretty happy with the way that the parameter is set up. Now I'm going to add my action. So I'm going to hit escape. I'm going to go to actions. And now I'm going to select the stretch action. All right. And I'm going to select the parameter. Again, in this case, it's going to be my height, but you guys are probably checking your width. And I want to associate it with that point there. And I'm going to make my stretch frame. Watch this, guys. Super important. I'm stretching all the way across, including the first parameter. I'm going to pick the polyline, pick the second parameter, the first parameter, and I'm going to hit enter. Before I get out, and I probably should fix it, but I'm not going to. I want to show you what happens. I'm going to close the block editor, save the changes. And now I have my width working and I have the height working. So as I'm sliding up my height, the width parameter is coming along for a ride. And that's because I literally selected the entire width parameter in my stretch box. Okay. Notice how my width parameter goes right through the vertical parameter. Believe it or not, it's actually probably best that I did that. But had I gone into the block editor, and this time I adjusted my first action, I'm gonna go to the action selection set. I'm gonna modify that first selection set so that I include my vertical parameter. Now, I should have both of them in that same, see how I'm doing stretches up and left and right? So the parameter needs to be acted upon just like the polyline. Right? Okay, go ahead and try just getting the width to work. Try getting the width to work. Oh, don't do polar yet. Don't do polar yet. Just let's stick with the orthogonal stretches for now. Because Miranda, the polar stretch could potentially replace these two. So you're on the right track. I just didn't want to make it that easy for you.
Do we have a minimum or maximum?
Yes. Minimum 14, maximum 8 feet.
Yeah, so same.
Yeah. Now, let me address your question, Cheryl. And so let me close the block editor and let me show you what Cheryl's talking about. Notice how if I drag to the right all the way to the 8-foot mark, the insertion point stays right where it was. Okay. And she's spot on when generally we want to have that base point kind of be the midpoint of the hole that we're trying to fill with the block. Okay. So one of the things you can do is right click on that block, go to the block editor and do the move action. All right. Do I want to move action? No. We're going to start with this guy here. They're going to start with the base point. Back in the parameters, there's a base point parameter. I'm going to drop that in right at the midpoint. Okay. And if you check it, the base point parameter, there's nothing you can really do about it. It's just a base point. Now that I got the parameter in there, now I'm going to go to the actions and I'm going to go to the move action. Move action, select the parameter. In this case, it's going to be the side to side parameter, right? So I'm going to pick the side to side parameter. Specify the side that I want to hook up to, and that'll be the right hand side. Now select the objects, and that's going to be just the base point. Hit OK. And hit enter. And now you'll see I have two little icons. We have the stretch action icon and the move action icon. And if I were to select that move action icon, you can see, and if I select it, I get it on my properties, my distance multiplier needs to be 0.5. And enter. Close the block editor, save the changes. Let's reset the block. I'm going to pick the block and choose reset the block. Now, as I grab to the right, the base point moves with me. And because I added that 0.5 multiplier, every inch I pull up here, I only need to move a ½ inch downstairs. Okay, because it's the midpoint of the line. And similarly, as I move vertically, it doesn't move with me at all because I still want that to be the base point. So if you can think it, we can do it. Dynamic block. 14 and 90. Yeah. This is the greatest part of AutoCAD, I think, since parametric draft. Sorry. You need to have a cup of coffee before you get into this advanced stuff, but
I think it's just so frustrating because I feel like I finally get something and then you move on to the next thing.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
hear anything. Like I just learned something finally. I don't even know how to get out of here.
So, pretty like, anyways, I had, yeah, I did that.
Right down me and I think you do like the videos. I think you could just do it as you did it.
So, and I don't know if this should be separated.
you're actually.
I made this and I just set it up in this part.
But I might have missed a step, so.
Show me the move. Oh, what are you good? Okay. That's good, that's good, that's good, that's good. Take your move action. Oh, that's not that, right?
Oh, I got this one.
See the little move icon that you already dropped in here?
Oh, this one.
Yeah, take it. Where are your oh, you gotta hide. Yeah, you need that out. Lock it over there. Just slam, grab the spine and slam it to the right hand side of your window. There you go.
My God.
Okay. Do the same thing with your palette. Slam that to the left.
So I had it at 25. Not the only thing to change.
That's all. That's it.
And move.
But
What is it? And I.
let me ask you
I
this.
selected it.
I'm gonna ask you this. What tool makes it move? What part of this makes that thing move?
Oh,
In this case,
to a change in width.
right. So
And then just.
select your stretch action. No, that's the parameter. These are your actions. See that box?
Yeah, but we want this,
No,
I might not have done. All right, that's what I was saying. All right, so we had to do,
hang on. Select. Hit escape. Select that stretch action. That's the vertical. You attached to the wrong one. Delete that, remove. Leave it.
very,
I just once, just change.
right here.
Right click.
To get out of the lock. To see if you could fix that.
No, action parameters, drop down.
I think you did.
Control all. Pick it.
That's, yeah,
No,
this,
pick it, right click it.
And then you like arrow.
There you
or the arrow.
go. Bring it back in.
and we went to parameters. Oh, man. Data point.
You've already got it in
I
there.
already have it. Okay. Select a parameter.
Which one do you want it to?
So when this one, the width moves, that will move too.
That's right, so pick the width parameter.
So select it that way.
Now pick the second one. Watch your command line, watch your command line. Click it. See how the red thing is highlighted?
Yeah.
Now,
Well,
move,
what am
move,
I-
move it over here, watch this. Oop, now it's over here. Move it over
Oh, okay.
there. Okay,
So all I gotta do is click it.
yeah, exactly. It says literally you specify the parameter point to associate with the action. too.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
I might not.
Now, what do you want to move? Now it's saying select your option. What do you want to move? Right,
Okay, I don't think I can.
I don't. Yeah, right click and reset the block. Reset.
Even the 0.5 thing.
That's all. You didn't add them because I had to delete the first move here first. Move. Remember I had to delete your first move. Get back in there, fix your new move. Your new move.
Okay, that's probably it. then.
Yeah. So how you gonna think it out? Okay. What the vertical?
Oh, I didn't even want to use it. Oh, what?
All right, what do you? What did you do? All right. Go back into the block edit.
What is the base? I don't know. what it is.
Okay, zoom out. What I want you to do is select everything, move, start the move command, the regular AutoCAD move command. That's the move command. Select everything. Midpoint of the bottom line.
Right that,
Yeah, well, shift right click midpoint.
right there.
Choose midpoint. Bottom line. Click. Now type 0, 0, 0. There you go. Okay, now you've set it up the proper place for the basement. Right. Zoom this down. C space E. Stop. Take this hand, leave it on the keyboard. That hand, leave it on that mouse. Right mouse button acts as the enter key. Right. Okay. Now, do not leave that. Let that hand come off that keyboard. Everything you type, you need to do the left hand. Don't hit the other key. Right mouse button. Now, show me the stretch parameter, the stretch action, I'm sorry, stretch action for your width parameter. Command line thing. It's the same now. Select the point to associate with the action. That's the second one.
That one.
Doesn't need to be on it, just need to be near it. There you go. Zoom out a little bit. Zoom out. You're too much like here. Get over here. Zoom around with me. Take this and slam it. Or stop. Take this, put it on the right hand side of the monitor. Your properties. Grab your properties. Grab the properties. Slam it to the right.
Okay.
Take that. Take that. Slam it to the left. Keep not slam it. Grab the spine, slam it. There you go. Your pan is still there. Now, width should only have one grip. So pick your width. How many grips? One. Perfect. Now hit escape. You move your hands. Escape. Select your height. How many grips? Okay, escape. Now you need to see how we have these exclamation points. That means the perimeter doesn't have anything to do. It's just sitting there doing nothing. Now you want to stretch that. Next thing I want you to do is take your command line and slam it to the bottom. Drag it up just a little bit. I want you to see 3 lines. Okay. Now, stretch action Specify the perimeter to associate with that guy. Now specify the first corner of your stretch frame. So it's not, what about, start up here, go down a bit. Up here. I need it right there. Yeah. Now click down there. Here, over here. Keep going. Have that segment fully contained within the box. These two segments are being split by. Good. Yeah. Right. Nope. Okay. Oh, this one, you want the constant. You go over here. Up.
Oh.
Right there. See what's, now do you see what is wholly contained, the vertical, the horizontal one? These two vertical lines are being split. How that can work with you, though. Click on it. You said it. Stop picking, all right. You are a endpoint picker. The endpoint vertices have a lot going on, right? And so get out of the habit of picking endpointism. Get into the habit of picking somewhere on the endpoint, somewhere near, okay? Because there's so much going on now. Now that we've got the parametric graphing, we've got the dynamic blocks, we've got all kinds of crap going on the vertices. Get off the vertices. All right, pick the block and go back into the block.
Wherever. Reset.
No,
No, log it.
yeah.
Oh.
Let's deal with the width parameter first. The width action. No, the one that you already got out.
Wait, what's it?
No, that's the perimeter.
Oh.
Perimeter action, perimeter action, perimeter action.
That?
No.
Oh.
Well. Fine. Modify. Action. Modify. Do your frame again.
What's this?
Don't worry about it. Pick your frame again.
Any,
Yeah.
not that. This is a-
Now, select the app object, select that for insert. Well,
This one?
it probably won't go, if I get. Okay, enter. Sure. Mark it. See what happens. You have one with you? So on the vertical one now, add the horizontal to make it right with it too.
Wait.
So the thing about the actions are this. The actions can move your polylines or your other parameters. It means there's no action assigned to them. All right. So now that we've got the linear stretch action working out pretty good, and a couple of us have the move, so one of the things that I want you to do is have the base point parameter for each block. And I usually hold off a week or so before I make you do that, but Cheryl wanted to push the envelope, so we're gonna do it. I want the base point to be moved with a stretch action, okay? It's not that big of a deal. Let me demonstrate. I'm gonna. All right, let me see. All right, take 2 more minutes. Let me get this finished up here on the assignment for the lab.
I need your help.
Oh,
I don't know what to do.
okay, hang on a second.
Hold on, Cheryl. I don't know what I did. It's so small.
Joe.
That's all right, I'm gonna go back and I'll do it. But.
All right, okay, do we all have basically an understanding of the basic linear strip? What are we missing?
That's a go that way. And now, down my, I think I have an arrow, I don't know how that down here. To do that, but when I look at it in there. It's right there.
Here's what happens. In green chart. Once you have got the thing so discombobulated that it just. So. No, pick it. Reset the clock. So you go ahead, but it won't lose much more. The whole block will be. So the base point for your block should be either the lower left-hand corner or the lower midpoint of the block. Right? So go ahead and grab your block at it. See how the icons over here? Move everything from the midpoint of that line down to 0. That'll straighten that out. How do you think that?
Yeah, no.
Let me see it. Let's see it work.
That's not right. These things, aren't they supposed to be like on the edge?
I tried to explain it.
Yeah, but it didn't work.
I can move block out there. The stretch action needs to include the other parameter. No, no. I mean, your stretch action needs to include the other parameter. Not yet. Right click the action. Action selection set, modify. Change, make this one here is for this script on the top, right? So you're crossing. No.
And that's for the width of the height.
Now. Width of the. Same thing. That width parameter. Actually, no, you don't want it to do that.
You want that to stay over. Green check, let's see that. Okay. Left to right. Okay, up and down. Up and down.
So that won't work.
Right, right. You don't actually want, in your case, because you have your height parameter on this side, width parameter on that side. You actually don't want to incorporate the width parameter.
I don't want this over here.
Right, back in the bucket. Pick your width action. Your width stretch action. That thing right there. Yeah. Right click. Action selector set. Modify. Your grip, your square.
On this side?
Type R. Remove. Okay. That height. Here, enter. Green check. Okay. Last thing. Make your base point move too. So you want to bring in the move parameter.
I need that help. I need to do that more. I don't understand. I move this whole thing over and it moves it away. Put it in here. And then kind of move it. See it better? It moves that.
Yeah. That's what it should be.
So that's not my, that's not. the thing I'm looking at.
Okay.
So I got rid of everything. It's not right. The parameters, you have me move my, you said move everything down to there. I did, and then that thing moved down again. Like, that's definitely not the answer. I need to make a midway point, but I don't know how.
On your parameter, do this with us.
Yeah.
On the parameter, so go back and look at it. For the parameters, bring in the base point parameter. Midpoint of your bottom line. And up, keyword. Shift right click.
Okay, that's what I mean, all right. So that will go line and,
Now that's the beginnings. So Miranda, now what you do is give me a stretch action from the top. I want the arrowhead over here.
I, one your line,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. And I'll just, I'm gonna go line up and line the box.
You took way too draconian of a response.
What happens when I'm on?
Pick your parameter and knock it down to one grid. You know the one that's all right. Vertical. Select it. Groups of one. See the difference? You have an arrowhead pointing up this way and arrowhead pointing over.
Yeah. How does it know, how does it know what you want?
It knows which one is first.
Oh, it
Okay,
goes,
there, there.
oh, okay,
Yeah,
all right.
now your stretch.
Good, this part and then make the. box.
Well, you read it. Okay. You have to read the band and line.
Yeah, select the parameter.
Yeah. Now what's the command?
Start, it wants this.
Mm, select the polyline, both. No, just that framer and that polyline. For your stretch, for your width. Yeah. Okay, now, we stretch to the vertical. Look,
So what,
which one has the cyan grip? That's where you're aiming.
okay,
Your stretch frame. Oh, that's terrible.
terrible.
You get off the, I'm just yelling at her about this. Get off the damn verse.
Why did you tell me to pick
Because
the corner
it
then?
did. It's a. All right, it's saying the corner of the stretch frame. It doesn't mean the corner of your. thing.
Oh, okay.
What if you're drawing a donut? What have corner? So down on here.
Yeah. This one.
And that guy.
And this one,
No, the frame is the frame.
why did that fall from the?
You just. And get green check out. Here's what first. I'm happy for one. I don't know what. Oh, I know.
I feel better when you watch me do
I
it.
totally,
still
I
can't do
did
it.
too, I did, and. All right,
Go back into that.
back of the bucket. Here's the thing,
It was like.
yeah, it did exactly what it was supposed
Yeah.
to. When,
You
for the
added
stretch,
this.
you need to slice through, in this case,
This
two
one.
vertical members.
Oh,
We only had to slice through one vertical. So when you grab your Uzi, it only stretch one of the vertical. So what I'd like you to do is pick the stretch action, yes. Left click, right click. Action select is that. New select. Yeah, we're not modifying it, we're wiping it out. We're gonna
Okay.
use
that first corner. And this is the one that's gonna go that way.
That's right, so we're gonna cut through the top line and the bottom line.
I thought we did that. I don't know.
Oh, you never selected your object, right? Your selections that. What is it saying?
Corner, so
Again, so it sucks, you have to redo the grip frame every darn time, that's what's taking about.
So you need this thing, or you need this.
The grip frame. Start up the right. Up and to the right. That's the left.
I don't know what your thing is.
Okay, new selection set. I'll send you right now. See that, the dotted,
This?
yeah, that's your grip
Okay,
frame, that's
okay.
your grip frame, okay? So do a new selection set. New grip frame, the upper right to the lower left.
Even though this one's still here, just
Yeah, yeah.
ignore it.
So that's still upper left. My fourth grade, I thought I'd do this, you know, but.
All right, I wanna do it right. You want me to go this way?
Upper right.
So up. Go down.
Matters
Do I need
because-
to cross this?
No,
Okay.
it's not, yeah. So. Now, select your object in the polyline again,
This line again, or no, this line.
yes.
I mean, it's all lighting up.
But look at the difference, look how look how the stretch frame slices through the horizontal on the top and the horizontal on the right bar. Okay, and it wholly contains that right hand vertical, right?
Yeah.
You check this, that's the stretch to the right only.
Okay, we did it. We did it.
Let's get down there and fix the vertical.
Great.
Well, stop. Before you do, I want you to select your stretch set. That's the linear perimeter. The stretch action is that little floater. No, that's not the perimeter.
White.
It's the little white icon. It's
Yeah,
floating.
that's what I was
You
doing.
can grab that. No, you weren't. Go grab the frame.
No, I went like that and,
Okay,
all right,
look at the frame. Look at the frame.
yes,
See how it's cutting the horizontal numbers?
yeah.
Should be cutting vertical.
Like up into the width one.
Oh, okay, wait. So you want this dotted line to be over this? Is that what you're saying?
Let me say it again. Different way. The stretch action will translate segments which are wholly contained within the frame. It will then also stretch those segments which are cut by the frame, as if it were a crossing selection. That
That was not the part. So you just, I need more box of the green box.
you need more cowbell.
I need more cowbell.
Your damn box needs to be on the top, needs to be fully contain the horizontal and slice through both vertical.
It's this whole side of the box is in there. I know, so are you
That's
talking
why
about this?
All right, you don't know what the word translation means. I see what a surveyor doesn't, okay. Do a segment. To translate something in survey speak means move it. So that it's perfectly the same, but over there.
Okay,
Not rotated, but slid.
Yeah.
So when stuff is for the stretch action to work. Pretending this is my stretch action frame. That segment will be fully translated. It'll be left alone except for its location. These two guys here will get stretched like rubber bands cutting right there. Okay? Your vertical selection right now, your vertical selection frame, I'll stop. It's right there. So when you grab your grip edit and you're going to translate vertically, you're going to move that segment, and these two guys here have to do this.
Oh, that's why. It's not enough of the actual shape.
Yeah, not all the correct parts of the shape are selected either. Vertical tug. I want to get this thing to stretch this way. Means leave this one perfect, and stretch these two. So if I want to stretch these two, what should the crossing look like? That or this? Right, second. Your crossing right now happens to be just this side, which is why it's going like. Okay. That's right. Okay. The lab is up. We're gonna develop some blocks from the textbook. We're gonna crack open the computer. For the lab, now that we have talked about how to do this, the lab lesson is up. This is probably going to transfer into homework. Because I see that we're having frustration levels astronomical of sorts tonight. Okay, but the idea of dynamic blocks are so crazy important that we have to do. Okay, it'll make your entire semester worth it. So for the lab assignment. For the lab assignment. In your technical drawing book. Okay. Turn to page 457. And you'll see we're ramping up for a floor plan. Okay. And in order to do the floor plan correctly, I want some blocks to be used as symbols. So if I were to blow up a section of wall, okay, I believe you guys actually have this done. The floor plan is actually done. You already did it for homework at one point earlier on this semester. Now it comes down to, we're going to show a block as a symbol, which represents a 36-inch door, for example. I think they do a little bit even more sparkles that, yeah. They have like this little kooky line thing, whatever. So on page 457, you'll see a bunch of blocks. And they have a single block for a 36-inch window left, 36-inch window right, and a 2'4" window left. Okay. Then they have a 2-foot window left. He happened to have used one block. I suggest we can do it. Sorry, he used 4 blocks. We are going to do it with 1 block. So the symbol looks something like this. Yeah. Don't ask me what these symbols really actually mean because I'm not an architect. Now, the other block that we're going to do for the lab, which is kind of into at 8:30, window block for the front door. We're going to do one for a side door or a back door. And then we're going to do one regular just for an interior door, like into a bathroom or a bedroom, like that. Okay. 1 block. 4 different versions of the window, 3 different versions of the door. And if you're really clever, I'll give you bonus points if you can come up with a slider block too. There you go.
So, no, look, this is the thing, I did, what you said, and I made it a lot bigger.
Picking the wrong car.
Oh,
It comes with repetition. Okay. How do we do 4 versions of a block? There's other actions that we have the ability to do. Okay. So let me flip back to the computer. Joe, I'm going to take a look at your stuff too in a minute, but let me get these guys going here and then you and I can take a look at each other's screen, okay? All right, so let me get back into my window block editor. And this time I'm going to do another rectangle. And I'm going to put it right in here. Now, notice how I just kind of banged it in there, right? I took no precaution whatsoever as far as I could even, let me delete this. I'm going to make it even worse for you guys. I'm going to draw our window. Okay, you see how horrible that window is? What do we have in our toolbox at this point to make that a nice window? Yes, constraints, constraint parameters, exactly right. We also have one more parameter. Parallel and distance. Right? So I would like, so in other words, like I said last week, the stuff that we learned last week is going to be used this week on top of everything else. And your brains will be mush by the end of this week, okay? Because we are taking all of our AutoCAD ability as far as drawing perpendicular lines, parallel lines, and applying it to automation. We're making squares here, but it's still automatic squares. Let's not make too much out of this. It's not, we're not putting a man on the moon here, but we are going to use some of the automatic tools we have learned about. So I'm going to make that top window, first off, held parallel to the outside of the door, okay? And so let's go and use that geometric constraint. And I'm going to constrain that parallel to that. I'm going to constrain it again. That parallel to that. I did it wrong with them.
The one you want to keep it at.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is going to be my parallel control. That's going to be held to it. This is my parallel controlled. This is going to be held to it. Parallel control held to it. Finally, parallel control held to it. All right. And now we're going to close that window frame up, and we're going to use coincident. It's a great question. I think the right answer actually is perpendicular. So I'm going to hold that perpendicular to that. It is, isn't it? So I'm going to undo that. You can. But look at that. It's dragging the darn door. Undo that, undo that. F8. There needs to be some perpendicularity. So let's go hold perpendicular that guy to that guy. There. That will shed down into the window light. Okay. Now the last thing is coincidence, and that is yeah. So let's do the trim first, okay? Let's trim these out. Get rid of that little hair there. And now we'll use the coincident, that to that. Oh, I must have already coincided. I must have done that. And I'll prove it to you. Let me turn these all on. How do you turn them all on? Yeah, where's the light bulb? There they are. I'm having difficulty here. All right, maybe we can fix it with some distances. Okay, so let's do a linear object from here, perpendicular. Do parallel. there, perpendicular, that. There it is. That's what I'm looking for right there. I'm going to set that to be, where'd it go? That's going to be 2 inches. Okay. Another one from here to that one. That's also going to be 2. It's actually going to be D1 equals D1. And linear from that object to that object, that's also going to be equal to D1. Okay, so if I change D1 to say like 3 inches, they should all move with me. And it didn't. What happened? Let's go ahead and throw a perpendicular in there. 1, 2. Now change D1 to 3 inches. There, that worked. Okay. So you got to sneak up on it.
I mean, I see it in the thing. How did you? Oh, it's over on there.
Well, take a look at D2. D2 is equal to D1. And D3 is equal to D1 also. And so the only number that I have to change here is D1. So let's go back to 2 inches there. All right, so now I'm going to close my block editor, save. Right. So I need to reset that block. And let's test it real quick. It's trying. It's trying. I don't know why it's breaking down, but it's trying. I know why, because I was right the first time. You want to hold this parallel to that. We went backwards. Reset the block.
So the way you always do it is you snap, or you pick first the one that you know is parallel, or the first one,
I always thought so.
the
Yeah.
outside, or is it the other way around?
Oh, my
Like hold this to that or that to this. Hold the window to the outside edge, or hold the outside edge.
Right. So let me get rid of the parallel for a second. Get rid of all that. So now I just have
You see our difficulties working.
close to it. Width and height. Oh, I know what's going on. Okay. I see how these yellow guys have their yellow on my dimensions, my parametric dimensions. I'm gonna set that to number of grips of 0. Okay, and then the same thing for the D3. Number of grips is 0.
You're not supposed to have it.
That's right. So for D1, we're going to set that to 0 also. Now I only want grips on my left and rights. Okay, and so now if I pick the darn thing, I just have my slider there and the slider there.
Closer.
So it's like I got to work on the concentric corner of those two so that that goes with it. Or could even be simpler. Reset the block editor. Take my stretch action there you go. Idiot. So right click that action selection set, modify the selection set. First corner of that vertical stretch frame is through there. And I'm gonna add my inside window.
The purpose of the block is just to make things match together.
Yeah, the purpose of the purpose of the dynamic block is to
Because one,
no, it's bigger than that. Once you start designing big houses or big buildings or big anythings, and you've got a million of something, you don't want to draw it a million times.
oh, that's right, it changes it.
Right. So as you can see, it's getting closer. My drag is now working on the inside window. And I've got to check to make sure that the drag is still working. We're gonna action set. I'm gonna do a new selection set, new frame, pick the outside, pick the inside guy, and pick the height parameter itself. And close. There it is. Oh, there's not. So it takes a little bit of effort to get these to work. But when you get it working, it's amazing. The light is giving me some trouble. I think I'm going to I'm going to throw in a parallel. Now let's do another parallel. First object, I want that held parallel to that. And I'm going to do a perpendicular. That perpendicular to that. Working now. See how I got the top working? So the trick here is to constrain it just enough. And so let's do a perpendicular that line to that line. Come on, do it again. Then I wonder why that one there isn't working. So that's the horizontal grip. Yeah, right. So we're gonna action set, we're gonna do a new selection set. And we're gonna snag that right-hand side. I'm gonna pick the window, the door frame. And that's it. Reset. Reset. Editor. Let's hold this perpendicular, the outside door frame.
So we have to do this to do it last week, right? So we just-
Yep. Yep.
No idea.
What?
Maybe more of like a sketch. Reform sketching.
Yeah, that works there. So that is,
A lot going on.
there's a lot going on here, okay? And so let me close that, save that, and let's reset it. It kind of brings it back to the way you have it constructed inside the block editor.
Oh, okay.
And it's all right click, okay? So it's all right click here and reset the block. So with the parallel and the perpendicular and the distance parameters of 2 inches, keeping the windows in from the outside of the door, you can see how this can be very powerful. And when we're drafting, it's not necessarily how much you can get drafted in a day. It's how much detail can we get built into the model. So and the next question is, how can you do it again tomorrow? So let's say that you are an interior designer. You're going to come up with a plan view of a 4-burner stove, a 5-burner stove, and a 6-burner stove. And you're going to drop in a quote stove into your floor plan. The customer will say, all right, I want to see it as a Viking 5-burner. You switch it over. And then you can see how the 5-burner won't fit in this crappy little rundown kitchen, okay? And so we're not just drafting here. We are preparing a set of tools, a set of software. And it seems crazy, but can you imagine being someone who's going to be showing windows for the rest of your life? Do you want to redraw the same window a million times? No, you're going to draw it once. You're going to spend an hour building it, but now the rest of your career, you're just going to drop it in. And you don't have to spend fundamental time again. So what else can we do with dynamic blocks? This one here on mine is getting a little complicated. I don't mind saying. You can also do arrays and flip. Let me put a doorknob in here. I'm going to just do a circle, and I'll put a doorknob right about there, and I'll just put it in just randomly, okay? And I'm going to close the block editor. So now, as I stretch the door to the right, the doorknob stays alone because that doorknob has nothing to do with anything, right? None of my parameters are affecting Mr. Doorknob at all. So what about a flip command? So go back to the block editor, and let's bring in the flip parameter. And specify the base point of reflection line. Reflection line should trigger to you the mirror command. So I'm going to pick the midpoint of the bottom of the door and right straight through. And my flip state, I'm going to place that over here. Now the flip state, where the heck is it? It is right. Oh, now the action. I need a flip action. So you have a flip parameter, and now we have flip action. So I'm going to bring in the action. It says select the parameter, so I'll select flip state. Now select the object. It's the doorknob. Hit close. Save. Before I start stretching it, there's a flip parameter right there. See a little arrowhead? Let me move that where it belongs. So let's grab that flip parameter. Just snag it over to there. See how I kind of drug it over? So pick the block. There's the flip parameter. See how I just flipped it from left to right? Very simple, okay? And it needs to be checked. It's obviously not working that great, but that's a flip parameter. And go back to the block editor. Other parameters, we have polar. So that's if you want to give it a rotation and a stretch, you can do that. The XY is if you're going to set yourself up to do some arrays, okay? Copy a bunch of things up, 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 or then left, right, 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 right. Exactly. Yep. And then lastly is the visibility parameter. let me make all my little constraints go away for a minute. And can I get the parameters to move? I don't think I can. No. You can't get the parameters to go away. So let me do a, what was I doing? Oh, a visibility state. Do a dog door. Okay, we'll do a rectangle or cat door. So now we have a cat door. And no matter what I do, it's not going to move anywhere. So it's totally broken in that respect, okay? But let me go back to the block editor. And I'm going to bring in the visibility parameter. Notice there's no visibility action. It's just a parameter. So if you go to the visibility parameter, yeah, that's right. I'm gonna just locate the parameter right there. And visibility comes up right here. We have a visibility state up in the ribbon, right? We're gonna do a make in, first off, let's, the visibility states tool brings up this guy right here. Visibility state 0, let's go to rename that. We'll say cat door with cat door. And we'll make a new one. We'll say no cat door. And hit OK for now. Now these, we have some options here, but just leave that alone for a minute. And I'm going to set current width. So now I have my visibility state with cat door or without. So let me choose no cat door. And I'm going to use this button that says make invisible. Pick that guy right there. Return. Close the block editor. So let me change that no cat door. It's still there, sort of, but it's just invisible. Let's do a with cat door. Okay. So the cat door, right, that should be moving also. So let's go back to the block editor and we'll use that move action. I'm going to action set, modify, and we're going to, it says select the objects to add to the action set. And I'm going to click the cat door. To close. Yes, no, it's not. It's the cat door was not included in any part of the stretch action. So my stretch action is only up and down or left and right. Okay. The right moves the cat door, keeps it centered on the door, but it's not being stretched. That's a great question. Yeah, no, the dotted line is only used for the stretch. Okay, so let me explain. Go back to the block editor. And you can see that I have the stretch action and I've got the move action. Those floaters are both attached to the width parameter. So when I move the width parameter, it does two things. It does a move of some stuff and it does a stretch of some stuff. The moving stuffs are the base point and the cat door. The stretching items are the outer perimeter of the door and not the cat door. And frankly, the only reason that the inside window goes is because we have these geometric constraints running. So yeah, it can get really complicated, but it can get really awesome. It's sort of like coding. If you like to code like programming, you would love this stuff. Someday I'll show you how to code AutoCAD. We can actually code it with the keyboard. So my goal here, and it's really, I've never been able to hit it with this class. The goal is really to feed a Excel spreadsheet to a drawing, attach that spreadsheet to your geometric and your constraints, and type in I want four windows that are 36 inches wide. I want 7 windows that are 32 inches wide. Enter, and it should drop them right in. That's the goal. I've yet to get there. So let's see if we can hit that goal this semester. So for the rest of the night, I want you guys to work on the assignment for the lab. It's due next week. So no homework other than get these 7 items, 8 items with the bonus. It's technically a lab, so it's technically the dynamic blocks lab.
So are we supposed to have, for example, one like that block view of 4 windows on that page?
No, what?
I think she's
You're
trying to
supposed to be
figure
able
out,
to take a block and change it based on the number you put in.
I think she's trying to figure out like how many.
Yes.
Trying to figure out.
Oh, I don't want PDF. I need to see one DWG. Yeah, so that's all right. 2 questions. You guys really bombard me with questions. I don't care what it looks like on a sheet right now. What I care about on this particular assignment is the drawing. And so what I'm going to do, let me flip it back to my computer. Oh, Joe's out. He's out. He's like, I'm good. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open up your drawing and I'm going to see something that looks like your door and something that looks like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab it and see how many of the little gripped edits you've left me. And I'm going to set it up to a 36-inch wide door, 24-inch wide door, whatever. Okay. And this over here, this block here, the same thing. I'm going to set it up. I want to see the different sizes. So
Oh, just for that one. I'm not trying forward and. See.
that would be cheating. That would be cheating. You're drawing one window. Watch. Let me explain. I will.
Don't you have examples?
I will do an example right here. I've been doing an example all night. I'll do an example with this guy. Oh, no. No. That'd be too easy. I'm gonna do this window symbol. Okay. Base point. The midpoint of that symbol thing right there. I'm gonna select the objects. And call this typical window symbol plan view. Select the object, just that one polyline, hit enter, and open it up in the block editor, hit OK. Oh. All right. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to lock these things down so that they're perpendicular, right? So I want this guy perpendicular to that guy. Cheryl.
That's gonna be our new thing.
All right, so now these things are all going to be held perpendicular. Now, let's put in a linear stretch from that side to that side. Pick it. I'm going to call it width. Okay. What are the options? I want a 3-foot window. Well, this is 4. So I have 2 foot, 2 foot 4, 2 foot 8, and 3 foot. Okay. So my width parameter, I'm not going to
Can I
do.
just,
Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
No, it's not.
just want to ask you a question?
Yep.
When you put in the width and you went into the properties width, can't you just click on that and where it was distance, you can click on it and then just type in width there? Or do you have to go into the properties?
You have to go in the properties.
What I did was, okay, because what I did was where you have width there, I right clicked and it came up where I could edit that distance and type in width on it. So I was like, whoa, what is this?
You right clicked on this thing?
Yeah, and then let me put my glasses back. And then I was able to rename it to width.
Oh, without.
So the thing that you have to turn to in the book doesn't look like the multiple labs. Is this something else?
Is it a page of these things right here? So the width. We're gonna set this thing not to,
Yeah,
all right, so Joe, I think the best way to do it is to do it through the properties panel. The way I'm doing it is because you have much better control over it.
okay. I was just wondering. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, so we're gonna set this width parameter to be a list. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the list. I'm gonna click that little button there, and I'm gonna type 24 inches, add 30 inches, add. Oh, what's 2'4"? That's 28 inches. What's 2'8"? That's 24, 32. And finally, 36. Okay, I'm gonna delete this 1/11/16. So there's my distances. Again, that's right in the lab. Okay, so once you take a look at the assignment, you see that. So there's that. And I'm gonna click close the block editor real quick. Yeah, yeah. It was a list. So go back to block editor. I will show you what I'm talking about. So I had picked the width parameter. And over here under the properties, we started originally tonight with none. You have two other types. You have increment and you have list. Increment, you can set up to the nearest inch, and every time you click, you can click, 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 click. Okay. List is if you have a specific set of lists to work with. Yes, and how do you get to the dialog box? Right here. You click that cell, and there's a little tiny hidden button on the right hand of that cell. Right.
Good. So when I was doing the window homework last night, today, I spent a lot of time trying to get the distance to say the exact number. Like instead of 2'4", it was 30. But I couldn't do it because it was only the decimal, the fractional, those units. Because I had a 52.5-inch height window. And it wouldn't do, the decimal wouldn't do the inch. So is it okay to just do it feet and inches, not total inches?
It is.
Okay.
It is.
Okay.
When you're using our class template, it's going to be set for architectural. So that means it's going to be expecting the units are inches. So if you were to type in 52, just 52, no inch symbol, just 52, and hit enter, it would automatically get transcribed to 44 foot 4 inches. Okay.
Because when I was doing the dimension plotting, I didn't know if you wanted to see like a 30 by 54.
Well, and in this case, I do actually, so I want these ones here. And the only way to do that is to using dynamic blocks. Using dynamic blocks is to do it as a list. I'm gonna hit OK. And now let me add the stretch pack, the stretch. Okay, so go to the actions. I'm gonna go to the stretch action, and I'm going to select the parameter, this guy here, and I'm going to put that guy here. Now the corner. Pick the item, pick the thing. Okay. I only want one grid. I only want one grid. Okay, let me do that again. That was terrible. Okay, let me delete that. So we have this width parameter. Notice you can hardly see it, but there's these little clicks. Tick, 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 tick. Those are the lists. Okay. And So now you need to add to add the stretch action. So I hit escape, fire up the stretch action, select the parameter. That's your width. Specify the parameter point to associate with. I wanted to associate with that guy. Notice the red X is on that right side. Click there. Specify the first corner of the stretch frame, upper right to lower left. Select the object, that is that polyline itself. And I generally also include its own parameter self itself. And I hit return. Let's do a test. It warns me that the geometry is not fully constrained. What do you want to do? I'm going to live life on the edge. And I'm going to go ahead and hit save. And what it means is if I were to pull up and to the right, bad things could potentially happen. But I'm gonna lock myself into ortho mode on, okay? Here's my first, there's my 2 foot. There's my 2'4", 2'8", 3 foot. Okay, so it's a bit of a bother to me that I have something of like 11 inches, right? So if I were to go to pick that width guy here, and I get my list, I get 1 foot 11 and 5/16. That kind of makes me a little mad, right? So one of the things I could do is bring up the linear parameter, pick there, drop it, and set that to 24. That pushes it out. All right, and now I can delete that parameter. And now let's go back and we can delete the list. We can get that list fixed. Where are you? I'm gonna delete that one out of the list. Okay. Close, save. Reset the block. So there's your list, okay? What else should I do on this block here?
Into the bottom and that made it. Okay,
Let me do that again. I did it fast. I apologize. Yeah. Well, let me set this thing over to just rando there, okay? Remember, I took zero caution when I drew that stupid block. And I happened to have hooked the width parameter up to whatever the heck it was at the time. Okay, that was a problem because I don't want, if I go to my dimension tool, I don't want 1'4" and 15/16 as an option. Okay, that's crazy talk. So get rid of that thing. And so I wanted to quickly set it to the distance that I wanted it to be. So I cheated a little bit. I used a parametric. Oh, I gotta be in the block editor. Sorry. I gotta go back in. Hold on. Something weird happened there. I want to add a linear parameter to the bottom part. And I'm going to set it to 24 inches, just 24, enter. It pushes it out to exactly what I wanted to, okay? I'm in charge because I'm the guy who's in charge of it. I'm the boss of it. So I've got it out to 2 foot. I'm going to just now, that was just for temporary. I'm going to delete that linear parameter. Now I'm going to grab my width parameter and slam it back out to where it belongs. Let's check the list now. It does, it cleans it right up. Okay. So again, that ridiculously hard homework we did last week is not only for final product, it's also for interim product for us. All right, so what, all right, the question there that I wanted to ask is, as we drag Mr. Window symbol to the right, choose one of the 4 versions, what else do we want it to be doing? No, let's hold on the height, hold on for the height, because the height in this case is gonna be whatever we chose for our floor plan, right? It was like 6 inches wall, something like that. 3.5. Oh, no, we were doing 2x6 studs plus a 1/2 inch plywood on the front and a 1/2 inch sheet on the back. So whatever that is. But the point is, I want the base point to move with my stretch. Does anybody remember how I did that? What's the first thing we do when we add, what is the first thing we add to the block? Yes. That's a parameter, right? Well, base point's pretty basic. Base point is pretty like low level, so there is no action for it. So I'm just gonna bring in the base point and put it at the midpoint of the thing. Okay. And as I drag right, what do I want the base point to do? Yes, so now, right, and now, so how do I make something move? Yes, I'm gonna bring in a move action, very good. No, it's a move, yeah. I'm gonna select the width parameter. And I'm gonna associate it with that right hand. And I'm gonna select the base point object and hit enter. I'm not done. I gotta go back in one thing. Cheryl? Yes. Pick the move action. Take a look at your properties. And look at this. There is a distance multiplier. As I'm grabbing this and I pull it to the right, see how my base point's going as fast as I am? Well, I want it to stay at the midpoint of the thing. So I needed to go a little bit slower. That's my 0.5 multiplier. To keep something in the midpoint of a dynamic block, you need to multiply a 0.5. Got it? Hit green check. Save the changes. Reset the block. And let's test it. Works like a champ. Okay.
It's like a lot.
Maybe.
It all makes sense, but I just see myself.
So basically, if you're putting line and that stuff on the window, you can do the same thing because you're at the base point. You've got this extra line and then that.
Yeah. So for videos that I've got right now. No, let me take a look at the in-class recordings.
Covered every year.
Yeah, but it's not always class 8 though.
There's no box. Oh, there you go.
Okay.
Yeah, class A, okay.
Sometimes it was hard to tell which videos were which, and then I'm like sitting there for 2 hours. Like, I thought he was gonna pull out my shingles.
So this is my basement office. My wife makes me work in the dungeon.
Hey, at least
Yeah, well, and we tried to do a whiteboard for the kids for COVID, but that didn't work out either. So, here's 2.5 hours of unadulterated fun.
but if I get real stuck, I let it in there.
I've gotten better at dynamic blocks since then, but I don't say that it's easy. Yes, it's recorded too, and I'll upload that.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
That way if I get stuck right now.
Yeah, I'll upload tonight also. Post-processing one of these classes for like clean upload to YouTube. Blow my head off. And then it takes, my computers are only so good that every minute of raw takes a minute to process. So like a 3-hour class takes 3 hours to nuke. And that's after I spent all day fixing every single little blooper. So when you see these ones up here, when there's like nice slideshow in front of it, I was just young and stupid. Now I'm just stupid. And so they're all like all processed. Right. I mean, like I said, no, not happening, not happening.
No, that would be super helpful. In
Yeah.
This class, then I could be like, oh, like half of the classes said that part and then look it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get that.
You guys have to dig deep on this one. I'm not pretending that you don't. I need you to have 8 weeks worth of AutoCAD ability. I need you to know how to run AutoCAD by now. Now we're getting into intermediate land. And this is going to make you so much better at AutoCAD than you ever would have been had you not gone and dug this deep. I literally have thousands of hours of AutoCAD under my belt, and I still have problems with making these stupid constraints work, okay? So don't feel stupid. Just feel that you don't have 10,000 hours yet.
At the beginning, you're like, oh, you guys gonna be rough at the beginning, you're gonna be bored. But yeah, and now you're like, it's gonna be way harder. I lied to you. People curse.
When a student sees their dynamic blocks working, and if you can incorporate, let me reset this. If you can incorporate, if you can incorporate your the constraints, it's amazing. Okay.
Yeah, it's important.
Well, I mean, it seems like if you could get it set up, then for somebody like you who might be putting together a house, sure, I mean, you'd be using it all the time, but you only gotta set it up once.
Yeah.
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 Unless you gotta add a new size.
You end up having a drawing called "All My Stupid Doors," and in this drawing, you're going to have maybe 50 blocks. But if they're all dynamic, you have thousands of configurations at your fingertips. And then finally, once you have AD center, once you have all of your blocks in a block drawing, oh, I got to get out of block editor. That's why. There it goes. Once you have all your blocks, so you take a look at your blocks here, and you can select all your blocks, right click and choose create a tool palette. And now you got your oh, where'd you go? You got your palette there. Control. You can like drag all these blocks on there. I think it's not letting me because there's some weird Windows problem right now, but
So you could make your own palette with all of them.
Right. So there's my palette. I'm gonna drag this on there. Come on, I don't know why it's not letting me. Like seriously. There's something weird here. If you had the right IT guy, you could do it. I do it all the time. I drag the blocks onto the palette. I don't know what's going on, but it gives you an idea of, I'll fix this later on, but it gives you an idea of how you access your content that you've spent thousands of dollars of your time on, okay?
So do you have like?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, let me show you. If I were to go, I don't know if I have Civil 3D. Where is it?
Oh, you don't want to. I wish I knew how to do that. Does anybody have a class in that?
I teach that too.
Big, brilliant.
It only goes every 3 years though. It's crazy.
Let me know. How much does that cost?
I think it's the same, whatever, 1,200 bucks. How much you paying for this class?
No, not the class. Buy
Oh,
at like $7,000.
no, it's much more reasonable. Yeah. So here's my palette here. There's all my letterheads, my title blocks, little legends, little blocky things. If I right click, I can go to like wetlands things, and I can bring in my sister's wetland stamp. I can bring in Cynthia Balsius's certification, that kind of stuff. Right click, I go to engineering. I go to erosion and LID. I got my bio retention cells. So if you just click one, put it right there. Get rid of that, Zoom extents. So this is a typical block that I use in civil engineering. Shows how to do a retention, bioretention cell, all the specifications, right? And I've been going through these and dynamicing them. So I've got some that are 8 feet wide, some of them are now 4 feet wide, some of them are 6 feet wide. So I'm going through these step by step and dynamicizing them so that I can pick a 6 footer, a 12 footer, 8 footer, whatever. Because it would take me hours to redraw that every time, right? And honestly, you see, what is this, a level spreader? You see one level spreader, you've seen them all. And so why not build them all the same way? And so let me show you the last job I was doing today. I could do white, but that's kind of boring. All right, I'll do white. And this is a boring, just a subdivision.
That's something that someone's created, where you have like every template or every architectural window, door, whatever.
They totally are. And some people have done that. You can buy templates of palettes and of things. Anderson Windows, you can go to the manufacturer and they have all theirs on AutoCAD for sure. So that way you can sole spec their windows. So yeah, the manufacturers are the ones that do that. So this is a classic subdivision. This one was like 106 acres, give or take. And so, you know, we survey around it. We show the wetlands, show Route 140. I mean, and we're showing the dimensions. So this is all 2D. But if you go to the model and you find the topographic part of it, here's your topo plan. Right click, you go to object viewer. Now it's in 3D, right? So this is just one example of some we call them verticals. It's AutoCAD, but there's been stuff tacked on top of it. This one here is called Civil 3D. It's used for surveying and engineering and environmental stuff. So you can't do plans. Here's the existing boundary plan right here. Here's the EC plan. You can't do this if you don't know how to run AutoCAD. I don't care if you're designing airplanes, gears, or subdivisions, right? I don't care. It all starts with regular AutoCAD. I don't know why my screen sharing is paused. I don't know. Okay. I guess maybe, oh, I do know why. Okay. I was sharing just AutoCAD. So the video will not see any of that Civil 3D.
I at least heard you.
Okay, sorry, Joe. You should have said something. I would have fixed that.
I figured you were talking about something on your computer.
Yeah. All right. What time is it? You got 8 minutes. Why don't you guys bang out that symbol and then you can go at 8:30.
Looks like an hour to draw a box.
Yeah, this little window symbol. Make it stretch from 2 foot, 2'4", 2'8", and whatever, 3 foot. And I'm gonna get my door to work. It's not a funhouse door anymore.
Yeah. Doors elevation view, is that front page?
That's this, yeah. Yeah, what are we thinking about?
I tried to do it like straight lines first and then. What? I need to know about straight lines.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know if there's like some on the computer that I can. Picture of one on the computer and picture.
That's probably your best option. Use your own pictures.
Yeah. That's maybe.
Take your phone, get right down on, put the controller on the table. Take your phone exactly perpendicular to it and shoot it. Also, get a stick of wood on top of the thing to give you a full thickness.
Yeah.
That'll give you your dimension of your thickness. Then you can use construction layer, build that box, which is 6 inches wide, whatever.
Yeah.
4 inches wide and 1.5 inches tall. Keep your crap inside that box, right?
That's kind of where I'm at. but
Okay. Take a shot of the thing in your camera. Email yourself that picture. And then insert it as an XREF into the AutoCAD. XREF. Let me show you. Let's just go get one just for the heck of it. And I don't want you to just do this, but I'm gonna do a PlayStation controller images. Let's see if I can get, well, we'll use this one for, we'll do the top view first, okay? So we'll just pick that guy there. From Best Buy, whatever, come on. All right, I'm gonna right click on that image. I'm gonna do a save image as, actually, let me, I'm gonna do new share, my whole screen. Sorry about that, Joe. Is that, you seeing everything now, Joe? I think so. Yeah, okay.
Yep.
We're gonna save this picture as a, I can't do that one. Save image as.
Snippet.
Copy image, there. And we'll put that right on the desktop. Yep, snip would work too. Yeah, you're right. Right click and. Okay, let's do the snippet. That's a great idea. So we'll go over here. I have snag it. So I have an image. File save as on the desktop. It's fine. All this top view. Yeah. Yep. And so now I'm down. I'm going to minimize that. Go back to AutoCAD. I'm going to get out of the block editor. Don't put it into a block. And now I'm going to go into a different layer. Call it like, I don't know, notes, whatever, something totally different. Okay. And now I'm going to do XREF. And upper left, we can attach a drawing or an image or a bunch of other things like PDFs. Go ahead and go to the attach image. And then go out to the desktop where we saved it. And top view, hit open. And put OK. And it's going to want to know where you placed. And I bet you it came in at 0, 0. Oh, here it is. It's asking me, my command line is asking me, where do I want to put it? I'm going to put it right there just for now. For now, I'm going to use a scale factor of 1. Okay, now the scale factor is the next step of this. From your ruler, you know that from here to there should be almost 6 inches, right? Whatever it is, if you just go ahead and you annotate that, dimension it, that's probably pretty close, okay? So now I'm going to go to my layer, call it material 2, get rid of that, and I can start sketching right on top of this thing. Okay, so I'm just kind of, I've got to find a tangent. So let's start up here. Let's find a tangent from the midpoint. F8 there, F8 down, F8 over. Now I can go into arc mode, get out of F8. There's my arc. There's another arc, line, arc. Now this arc is going to be totally whacked because it's not tangent, right? So click there, line segment down, F8 on. So hold there, go back to your arc segment that's totally bowed out, grab it, and just eyeball it. Okay, so
What's the thing you type
XREF, for it stands for external reference. And so XREF will bring in an image. So yeah, it's not the greatest thing, but it'll give you a rough idea of what the radiuses are supposed to be. So let me go ahead and annotate that radius there. And that's coming up as a 1/16 of an inch. It could be, right? It could be. But if I were to go to the units and I set my, go ahead, units. Come on. There it is. And I set my precision out to the nearest 2/56 of an inch. Now I measure it as a 7/8 of an inch, you know. So it gives you a rough idea of what we're talking about. Don't just copy it.
Just to get a couple of them right in there.
Yep. It's better than nothing. The other option would be to, if you have an iPhone 13 Pro, doesn't Ryan, you have? I don't have one. The iPhone 13 Pro has the scanner built into it. And you could scan the object, have it burp out the STL file as a point cloud and bring that into AutoCAD too. That can help you model it well. So
I had like my sewing measuring tape, you know, like the,
Yep.
I'm trying to get that all around it. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yep.
A big old curve. But recorded as well.
Yeah.
I don't have to do this.
Joe was going to also, because Joe decided to go with a set of wrenches. So same idea.
Curves.
Yeah, lots of curves.
Like, why don't I pick a box? Don't put it from somewhere. Yeah, because I don't know what the radius is of share.
Get it close. Get it close.
But that will help.
Yeah.
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 Wow, what an invigorating class. That was really something. Oh, look, I'm starting all over.
I seriously think the parametric stuff and the dynamic stuff made AutoCAD a real contender for one of the best pieces of software out there.
Thanks.
You can do some serious damage with it. And it's a lot easier when you have like a 24-inch monitor. The stupid projector knocks my screen down to like 4x4.
You just gotta look on this side, and I can have my AutoCAD open on this side.
Yep.
Turn in my head.
Most professional drafters have, at this point in this day and age, 3 monitors. They have the left, center, and right. And I'm old school. I only have 2 monitors on my stuff.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right, have fun with it.
I'm bringing it full.
Good.
Have a good night.
You do. Joe, you still there?
Yeah, I'm still there.
All right. I apologize. I didn't spend a lot of time with you, but do you
That's okay.
anything to show at all?
No, I had a couple of them and I figured it out a couple of times and then I lost it, but just watching you again, I'm gonna have to watch it again, the video, and go over it. Cause I don't know how I did it one time, but I'll
Right.
figure it out.
All right, I'll get it uploaded.
When you kept doing it, I kept seeing, okay, I noticed what I didn't do, like I didn't save it and test it and go back to make my changes.
Right.
So
Right.
that's how
I'll get it
figured.
uploaded as soon as possible, maybe by the end of the week.
Yeah.
So you guys can have it for the weekend.
All righty. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Joe. Catch you later.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye.